a serene village where time seems to stand still and the holidays bring everyone together in a picturesque setting. It sounds like a dream, doesn't it? But sometimes, beneath this facade of tranquility, darkness lurks, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Tonight, we delve into 3 true stories where idyllic village holidays turned into horrifying nightmares. Prepare yourself for tales that blend the comfort of tradition with the terror of the unknown. Our first story takes us to a small village nestled in the heart of England. Every year, the village hosts a grand festival to celebrate the harvest season. It's a time of joy, with music, dancing, and a feast that brings together families and friends. For many, it's the highlight of the year. But for Emma and her family, this festival became a harrowing ordeal they would never forget. Emma had always loved the festival, a tradition passed down through generations. This year was special. Her daughter, Lily, was old enough to appreciate the festivities for the first time. The excitement in Lily's eyes was a sight to behold. But as the sun began to set, an uneasy feeling crept into Emma's heart. The villagers spoke of an old legend that the festival celebrated not only the harvest, but also an ancient pact with the spirits of the land. Emma had heard the story before, but she always dismissed it as mere folklore. However, that evening, something about the atmosphere felt different. The villagers seemed more somber than usual, their laughter tinged with an edge of nervousness. As the festival continued, Emma noticed that the children were being kept away from a particular area behind the old chapel. Her curiosity piqued. She decided to investigate. What she found was unsettling, a circle of stones arranged in a pattern she didn't recognize. An old villager, who seemed to have been waiting for her, approached and whispered a chilling warning. The pact must be honored. Despite her unease, Emma tried to shake off the feeling and focus on enjoying the evening with Lily. But as the clock struck midnight, an eerie silence fell over the festival. The villagers gathered around the bonfire, their faces pale and expressionless. It was as if a dark cloud had descended upon the celebration. The fire crackled and popped, casting grotesque shadows on the walls of the chapel. Lily, who had been enjoying herself just moments ago, suddenly started crying uncontrollably. Emma rushed to comfort her, but Lily's cries grew louder, more frantic. She clung to Emma, her tiny frame trembling. Suddenly, a gust of wind extinguished the lanterns, plunging the festival into darkness. Panic ensued as the villagers scrambled to relight the flames. In the chaos, Emma heard a strange, chanting sound coming from the direction of the chapel. She glanced at the old villager who had spoken to her earlier. He was now standing at the altar, his eyes wide with terror. When the lights were finally restored, Emma noticed that Lily's crying had stopped. She looked around and realized that several of the children were missing, their parents searching frantically. The festival had turned into a scene of chaos and fear. Emma tried to find Lily, but was met with a nightmarish sight. The circle of stones had been disturbed, and strange symbols had appeared around the altar. As dawn broke, the festival was abruptly ended. The missing children were eventually found, safe but deeply shaken. Emma and her family left the village the next day, their holiday forever tainted by the events they had witnessed. The villagers continued their traditions, but Emma knew that the legend was more than just a story. To this day, Emma often wonders what really happened that night. The village still celebrates the festival, but the memory of that cursed evening lingers, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide beneath even the most joyful traditions. Our second story takes place in a charming village in the Swiss Alps, known for its picturesque beauty and warm hospitality. The inn at the heart of the village is famous for hosting a grand holiday feast each year, attracting visitors from far and wide. But for one family, the inn's hospitality became a terrifying ordeal. The Johnsons were excited about their holiday getaway. They had heard great things about the inn and its festive atmosphere. Arriving just before Christmas, they were greeted with a warm welcome and shown to their cozy room. The inn was bustling with guests, all eager to partake in the holiday celebrations. On Christmas Eve, the inn held its grand holiday feast. The dining room was filled with the aroma of roast meats and freshly baked goods. The Johnsons joined the festivities, enjoying the company of other guests and the cheerful ambience. But as the evening wore on, they noticed something peculiar. The guests seemed to be acting strangely. They spoke in hushed tones, and their smiles seemed forced. The Johnsons attributed it to holiday nerves and continued to enjoy their meal. But when they returned to their room that night, they found a note slipped under the door. The note read, "Do not stay. Leave before midnight." The Johnsons were bewildered, but decided to dismiss it as a prank. However, as the clock neared midnight, they began to feel an eerie sense of dread. The inn, which had been lively just hours before, was now eerily quiet. The Johnsons tried to ignore their growing unease and decided to retire for the night. But sleep eluded them as strange noises echoed through the halls. Footsteps pacing back and forth, whispers drifting through the air. The family huddled together, their fear mounting. Suddenly, they heard a loud knock on their door. Their hearts raced as they opened it to find nothing but an empty hallway. Panic set in as they realized that the inn was not as it seemed. The once friendly staff and guests were nowhere to be found. Desperate to escape, the Johnsons hurriedly packed their belongings and made their way to the front door. But to their horror, they found it locked tight. The once warm and inviting inn had turned into a prison. With no other options, they broke a window and fled into the snow-covered night. They reached the village and sought help from the local authorities. When they returned to the inn with the police, it was as if the place had never existed. The inn was gone, replaced by an abandoned building covered in dust. The Johnsons' harrowing experience remained unexplained, a chilling memory of a holiday that turned into a nightmare. To this day, the villagers speak of the inn in hushed whispers, and the Johnsons are left with only their memories of a festive getaway that became a horrifying ordeal. The mystery of the vanishing guests remains unsolved, a ghostly reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind even the most charming facades. Our final story unfolds in a remote Scottish village known for its ancient traditions and picturesque winter scenery. The village holds a special Christmas Eve service at the old church, a tradition that dates back centuries. For one family, the church's haunting melody became a chilling experience they would never forget. The Thompson family had traveled to the village to experience the holiday season in this historic setting. They were warmly welcomed by the locals and invited to the Christmas Eve service at the church. The atmosphere was serene, with the church filled with the soft glow of candlelight and the scent of pine. As the service began, the congregation sang traditional carols, their voices blending harmoniously with the sound of the church's ancient organ. But as the night wore on, the music took on a more somber tone. The organist, an elderly man with a serious demeanor, played a melody that seemed to echo through the church, creating an almost otherworldly atmosphere. The Thompsons were enchanted by the music, but as the hours passed, an unsettling feeling began to creep in. The melody was beautiful yet haunting, and the longer they listened, the more they felt a sense of dread. The church, which had felt warm and inviting, now seemed cold and oppressive. As the service neared its end, the organist's playing grew more intense, the melody reaching a crescendo that sent shivers down the Thompson spines. Suddenly, the music stopped abruptly, and an eerie silence filled the church. The congregation was left in stunned silence, their faces reflecting their fear. In the stillness, the Thompsons heard a whispering voice, as if carried on the wind. The voice spoke in an ancient dialect, and though they couldn't understand the words, the tone was unmistakably mournful. The church's atmosphere grew colder, and the Thompsons could see their breath in the air. The congregation began to murmur, and the organist, who had seemed so composed, was now visibly shaken. The service ended abruptly, and the villagers quickly dispersed, their faces pale and eyes downcast. The Thompsons were left alone in the church, their holiday spirit shattered by the chilling experience. As they left the village the next day, the Thompsons couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The haunting melody of the organ seemed to linger in their minds, a spectral reminder of a holiday that had taken a dark turn. The village continued its traditions, but for the Thompsons, the Christmas Eve service was a haunting memory they would never forget. The church still stands, its ancient walls echoing with the memories of those who have experienced its chilling melodies. For the Thompsons, it remains a testament to the darkness that can lurk behind even the most sacred of traditions. 3 stories, each one a reminder that even the most idyllic settings can harbor dark secrets. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, please like, share, and subscribe to Mystic Spooky for more spine-tingling content. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying horrors are the ones that hide behind the facade of normalcy. Until next time, stay spooky.